Today I am the presenter for What Do Teachers Really Want from Coursebooks by Hitomi Masuhara. The details of my report are empowerment of teachers, opportunities for change, new opportunities in teachers' forums, and the conclusion. So for the empowerment of teachers, the first part is the need for objective measurements of the quality of published course books. Sheldon, 1988, advocated several ways of achieving objective measurements. These include the desirability of introducing a Which magazine for ELT course books and the improvement and innovation in ELTJ reviews in order to enhance their validity, usefulness, and availability. For example, collaborative teachers and learners reviews. Now, the developments by which this took action is that the Which magazine for RLT course books has not really materialized, possibly because of the increasing diversity of users and the context does not allow simple comparisons anymore. So far more publications, however, seem to be available these days on research-based reports of the evaluation of current materials. For the improvement and innovation in ELT journal, reviews have taken place and these seems to be functioning well. In addition to traditional impressionistic pre-use reviews by experts, collaborative and systemic pre-use reviews at regular intervals seems to provide cross-sectional and longitudinal evaluation of course books. And another part of its development is we have now online book reviews are becoming widely available these days. Some providers, for example, Google Book, Goodreads, and other such types of websites, offer links to reviews published in scholarly journals. Now, next is the stricter and more systemic material selection procedures. For its suggestions, we have in the 1998 version still, it would have been useful to have a systemic review comparing evaluation checklists and that empirical studies of learners and teachers' needs could facilitate data-based development of evaluation criteria. Now, the development by which it took its course into is that we have even more checklists and frameworks which are now available, which are designed to enable systemic selection of materials. So, this is in a shrinking world where English is becoming one of the basic skills. So, there are growing demands for accountability for royalty materials as evidenced by the proliferation of evaluation checklists. So, the increase of these reports on material development project all over the world, so in folio, which seem to testify that the users at institutional and national level seem to be taking the initiative in the evaluation, selection, and development of their own materials. So there is already institutions that evaluate the materials or the course books that we must disseminate as teachers. And Tomlinson in 2003 developed a procedure in which teachers are helped to articulate their implicit theories in the process of developing their own evaluation criteria. So, and the next part of the process of the evaluation of materials is we have establishing methods and feedback routes of users' evaluation suggestions. Ria Dickens in 1994 have the three kinds of evaluation. These evaluations are the previous evaluation, which can be done prior to the use of a course book for the purpose of checking the construct validity and the match with the needs. And next is the in-use evaluation, and then lastly is the post-use evaluation measured in terms of the learner's performance. For the division of the procedures, the users need to work coherently, so it is vital that the results of the systemic whilst and post-use evaluation of published materials are fed to the materials producers to be reflective in the future production. Now, the development of this course in the process of evaluating materials are there now seems to be more and more postgraduate students engaged in research on materials development, which involves whilst-used and post-used evaluation. The Materials Development Association, or the MATSDA, has continued to publish reports on overseas materials development projects in folio and also offers annual conferences to provide a forum for reporting on such projects and for suggesting ways of improving materials for teachers, teacher trainers, publishers, materials, writers, and researchers. Some writers and publishers are trying to incorporate whilst and post-use feedback in their materials through piloting. And so, this is the speed and the variety of how the publishing makes such feedback difficult to obtain and make use of. Next, in the process of materials evaluation, we have establishing systems for teachers' needs and wants to be reflected in the production process and the wider perspectives in teacher development. In the 1998 suggestion, so the on inclusion, there was the suggestion of inclusion and teaching development courses of components of materials evaluation, adaptation and writing, and also the inclusion of research methodology training in postgraduate courses in TEFL or TESL and applied linguistics, and the development of how these processes are being implemented now is reflected in how the UK and in South Korea there are dedicated materials development MA courses, and a number of universities all around the world now offer materials development modules on their postgraduate courses in TEFL or applied linguistics. So the Higher Education Funding Council in England now requires research methodology courses to be part of postgraduate studies. Next, in the process, we have more acknowledgement of the teacher's non-teaching expertise and workload. Now, Johnson in the 1989 summarized in the table which is being presented that the stages of decision making roles and products in curriculum development. We have the developmental stages, the decision making roles, and the products. For the developmental stages, we have the curriculum planning, specification of ends means, program implementation, and lastly we have classroom implementation. For the decision-making roles of the curriculum planning, we have the policymakers, and the products resulted are the policy documents. And for the second is for specification, we have the needs analysis and the methodologies, and the product that they produce is the syllabus. Third is the program implementation, and the decision makers are the material writers and the teacher trainers, and the products are teaching materials and teaching training programs. And the classroom implementation, we have the decision makers as the teacher and the learner, and the products are teaching acts and learning acts. Now, in this development of the curriculum development, it is very plausible, but in reality, however, such groups cooperation of experts may rarely happen except under highly privileged circumstances. In fact, a teacher may be expected to function as a course designer, needs analyst, methodologist, and materials writer. Often, these non-teaching activities seem to be considered as part of teachers' duties without them being properly appreciated or acknowledged, and without the teachers being trained to do these activities effectively. So, more sympathetic material selection, for example, could really be achieved if teachers were given the time, a place, and encouragement. Thus, it is vital to encourage institutional support for all the above suggestions to be materialized. For the next part of my report, we have opportunities for change. So, these opportunities for change, as being presented in the table, is when changes in the course books can be brought into decision making process. So this is in the opportunities for reflecting teachers' needs and wants, the production stage. So this is in the development of the course book. We have the stages of production, the agent, kinds of investigations, and then the methods. For planning, we have the agents, the publisher, in-house investigator, and the material writer or writers outside investigator. And what they investigate is the needs analysis, market research. What do the teachers need and what do they want in their curriculum? So in order to investigate, they hand out questionnaires or questionnaires, or they interview some teachers, or they do classroom observation. Next is they draft these materials, so they create an outline, and the agent for this are the materials or writers, publishers. So this is the drafting process, and then the next stage of the production is evaluation. So the agent for this are the reviewers selected by the publisher. So this occurs, like for example, for when you are conducted a research investigation, you have you have it reviewed by your peers. So the kinds of investigation that occurs in this stage is the reading of the materials, and then the methods are criterion referenced evaluation. So there is a criteria that must be met by the current draft of the course book or the material. So next is piloting. And the agents here are the publishers, and teachers, and the learners. So this is when you provide more on beta or a beta of your product. So it's a test subject of your product. So this is a trial. And then the methods here are the questionnaires, interviews, classroom observation, and testing. So by providing these course books to teachers and learners, the publishers can then conduct their interviews and questionnaires on what are the other possible changes that must be done. So next is if the piloting was successful, then they would then proceed to production. So the for production, we have the agents as the materials writer, publisher, and then designer. And then what they are investigating is consultation and on the publication of the course book. And then the post production, we have reviewers, research analysts. So even though the course book is already published, there's still a need for it to be reviewed, because there is already a wider audience. So book reviews and then the sales record. So the more successful or the more effective your course book is, the more likely that it would sell. So and then the methods is the evaluation and analyzing data. Next is the new opportunities and teachers forums organized by publishers. So this is in the how the course books are being evaluated by ano. So for example A, we have evaluation meetings. This is representative of samples of teachers which are invited to a half day lunch and or type of social gathering with all expenses paid plus some payment on top if possible, in which the publisher or gives out the newest commercially available course books are presented. So better still if demonstrated in a mock classroom situation. And then the teacher, next is that the teacher considered to be good and useful activities are identified. And then discussions as to why the activities identified in B are useful are conducted with monitors and a facilitator, so, or material writers, or the organizing the session. So this is the implementation of what we have discussed on the previous part of the process of the development of the process of the materials. And then the next example for how course books are evaluated is the take your pick samplings meeting. So the materials writer produces three kinds of perspective, many course books, black and white copies of a few units, for instance, would be enough, in which a controversial point of choice is embodied. For example, three mini course books are all text-based with the same text, but each one employs a different approach. One is structure-based, the second is explicit strategy training oriented, and the third aims at implicit strategy through tasks which aim at global understanding then become language awareness activities. So the next example of how course books can be evaluated are users meet to become producers. So Tomlinson reports a very interesting case in Namibia of teachers producing materials at national level in collaboration with a publisher. So representative and recommended teachers meet together for a short period of time. During this period, brainstorming about the type of course book they need, syllabus design, raw material searching, writing units, being given feedback by other participants and by a facilitator, and editing are carried out under the supervision of a facilitator. So the materials are then taken back by the teachers to their schools and tried out, and the results inform the revision process. The revision process are give out these options which gives out preferable suggestions, in a sense that one, it provides solutions to many of the problem caused by the role divisions, such as materials not meeting the local needs, teachers not understanding the materials materials writers approach. Next is the materials themselves address the teacher's needs and wants and the possible ways of satisfying them without actually having to go through intricate research procedures to identify them. And then the last is the materials can be used in classroom and then revised. So for this is this is the example on how the teachers become producers. Now for the conclusion, we have now the conclusion. So what do teachers really want from course books? Teachers may or may not be able to articulate their answers. They may contradict themselves. Their views and opinions are likely to be different from each other. But the evaluation of course books are important because the reviews of current course books, according to Matsuhara et al. 2008 and and Tomlinson, 2008, revealed that publishers seem to tackle the diversity of users' needs through pick and mix or take what you want approaches. As Matsuhara plead, what teachers want are not prescriptions but engaging texts, activities, advice, and suggestions so that they can personalize, localize, and adapt the global course books to suit their specific learners and their classroom in diverse contexts. So that is all for my report. Thank you for listening.